I have found the perfect transfer that would fix a major problem for Boston College football.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Locked On Boston College, your team every day. I'm your host, AJ Black of Eagle Insider, part of the 247 Network. I've been covering Boston College for over a decade. If you're looking for Boston College news, analysis, and details on your Eagles, you are in the perfect spot. Locked On Boston College is a free daily Boston College podcast available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. On today's show, basketball, things look pretty bleak to start off, but they pull away to beat FDU. I'll explain what happened in that game. The first domino falls on a quarterback that could be BC's starter next year. I'll explain what happened there. And the perfect transfer portal player is in the portal, and he's not a name you've heard of, but he really is a good one. I'll explain what that is in just a minute. But today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. All right, let's talk recruits. I've said on this podcast that there's certain levels of recruit that BC needs to hit on this season. They cannot go back and continue to do what they did last year, which is get some FCS guys that may have a upside but haven't proven it yet. They need guys that can do it. And look, I am a nerd. I'm a nerd. And when I see, Peter Nicos or Matt Zenitz or Peter Thamel post a new transfer up on their, page on Twitter, I love to go to Pro Football Focus and look up all the details. Shout out to Mitch Wolf, who showed me how to do all this, because it's become a habit of mine. So when it's a position that BC needs, or it's a name that I've recognized, I go over to Pro Football Focus, I plug that guy's name, and I go, okay, that guy is terrible, I don't want him. Or, ooh, that guy is intriguing, but maybe I'm missing. Oh, he's a bad tackler. No, you don't want him either. Or, this guy could do it. Well, let's see what happens. Rarely, you'll find a player that you open up and you go, whoa, that guy. Yes. Many times, though, because you're Boston College, you look at who the guy is, and you're saying to yourself, well, he's going to get himself a big old payday from Big Ten or SEC, and that Big Ten or SEC school, so let's just move on. I found somebody, though, folks, that addresses a major issue for BC. And I think, just looking at him, there may be a chance BC could land this guy. And his name is Nadame Tucker. Now, Nadame Tucker hits a few things that we need. He's an edge rusher. You need an edge rusher bad. You're losing Quintavious Hutchins. You don't have anybody that really has much in terms of pass rush. You got a couple guys that have had spurts here and there, but they haven't been consistent. You need a consistent pass rusher. This guy's going to do it, and I'll explain in a minute. He is from the Northeast. Is originally from Teaneck High School in New York City. He played at least a G5 level at considerable snaps. He played 3 years at Houston, then transferred to Western Michigan. Western Michigan just played for, and I think Western Michigan beat Miami of Ohio in the MAC championship, so he's played in that too. And the numbers, you pull up the Pro Football Focus numbers and your eyes light up. Because this is not a guy that has huge red flags anywhere. He had, according to Pro Football Focus, you can look at different people and they have different stats here. So I'm going to go with what they have. He had 14 sacks last year. 14. He had 7 pressures alone against Michigan State. For context, I think he had, how many sacks did he have in that game? He had 2 sacks. So Quintavious Hutchins had 6 pressures in that game, but 0 sacks. You can see the big difference there. 14 sacks. He's 6'3", 6'4", 240 pounds. He's a big guy. You need a guy that can get home. His pass rush grade for the year was a 93.1. 93.1, which would put him near the top of all edge rushers in college football. Now, because of the way the transfer portal works, we don't know who is interested in who. I'm going to guess BC is going to look at this guy. The one little red flag, because it's BC, is before he was at Houston, he was at Hutchinson Community College. But we've had guys come in, so it's basically a JUCO. We've had guys play from JUCOs before. It's not a new thing, but that's a little trickier probably to get them through admission. So we'll have to wait to see what happens there. But this would be huge. This is the kind of player you need. That pass rush made my heart go crazy because you look, he had 62 pressures last year. Donovan Azaraku was an All-American with 59. I know that the level of difficulty and who you're playing against is a little different, but again, I said he had 7 pressures against Michigan State. So this is the kind of guy I mentioned on yesterday's show. I want to see BC hit some of these areas that they really desperately need to fix. This would be a number one. You had 0 pass rush last year. None, unless you blitzed. You could not win those 1-to-1 matchups. So getting a guy like this that is a proven commodity, had 14 sacks last year, which is, better than blows anybody on your team's, numbers away, would be huge. This would be the kind of player you need to get. So we're going to have to wait to see how his market kind of rolls out. But, when you get a guy that has grades like this, that, can really get to a pass rusher, has 14 sacks, 60 pass pressures. This is what BC's defense was desperately needing. Now, again, I mentioned this on my All Access special show yesterday. The big issue here is, you can recruit him right now and you can reach out to him. But if I'm Nadame Tucker, what am I going to say? Hey, who's your defensive coordinator? Because we're now in week 3 and we still have no clue. Maybe the team knows and they just haven't announced it yet. And they're just doing such a great job. Close best. That could be great. But I'm guessing that they don't know. And if they don't know, they can't tell recruits, and recruits want to know what positional coach they're going to play under, or what, unit coach they're going to play under next year. If you don't have anybody, it's harder to recruit. So hopefully that answer comes soon so that you're not, chasing your tail trying to get this guy, and other schools have already reached out. Yes. And again, I know they're not supposed to reach out yet, but let's be realistic here. We know what's happening, right? So Nadame Tucker, this is a guy that I watched, and I got to watch his tape just to see what he looks like. But his numbers, his grades, it just fits. You got to get him. This is my perfect transfer. And it's not a quarterback. See? Got something a little different for you in this one. Now, let's talk about quarterbacks in just a moment. The first domino fell if what you're hoping would be a big 5-star to come to BC happens. The first domino fell on Monday, and I'll explain what I mean by that in just a moment. There's nothing like college football season. Packed stadiums and being right there in the middle of it all. The energy, the bands, the moments you remember forever. But actually getting tickets, that part used to be frustrating with long queues, logins, and prices jumping out at checkpoint. That's why Game Time gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to unlock amazing college football tickets and experiences in just a few taps. I used it this year to get BC and UConn tickets. The big issue for me, I had a huge family going. I had 9 family members, my wife's family, my family. They're all going to this game. And I wanted to make sure they all could sit together. We found the right tickets. We found the right area. I picked the wrong area in the field where we were sitting closer to UConn fans, but hey, it still worked. But the prices were incredible. That was the part that blew me away. You go on some of those other sites and you miss you look at the numbers, and then when you check out, the fees are crazy. That's not this way with Game Time. Game Time is amazing. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Thank you for making Locked On Boston College your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. If you haven't already, you need to go check out our Everydayer Club. When you get that basic tier, access to an ad-free audio feed for Locked On Boston College, compatible with Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and every other podcast app. And you get Everydayer Club Discord server, which includes a group chat just for listeners of Locked On BC. I got it up, and folks, if you guys are an Everydayer, come over and say hi to me on the Discord. It's a fun, quick talk to me kind of thing. And if you haven't already, you can go up and get the all access tier to get an even bigger experience. I talked about a special episode that I did earlier. I just had a 9-minute thought in my brain. I went out there, I recorded it, sent it out. You get that. You get the Discord. You get subtext where you can text me directly. It's like you're texting directly with me. You get 15% off Locked On gear. It is incredible. If you have not already signed up, it's the perfect time to do it. And all you have to do to sign up is go to LockedOnBostonCollege.supercast.com. Again, that's LockedOnBostonCollege.supercast.com. I hope you join up. It's a great deal, and you can give it as a gift. If you want to give yourself a Christmas gift or a gift to a family member that's a big BC fan, it's easy on the website. Again, LockedOnBostonCollege.supercast.com. Sign up today. I'm going to leave that down there so you guys remember if you want to sign up. Now, the recruiting for the transfer portal is underway. You're going to start to hear names popping up. You saw already, we talked about it on yesterday's show about the D2 quarterback that was interested in BC, might be taking a visit. But one name, there's other names that have not entered, and there's buzz about those players. I have mentioned Deuce Knight before. This is a former 5-star composite by 247 recruit from last year who signed with Auburn, and he was recruited there by Kenyatta Watson, the new general manager of Boston College. Now, BC needs a quarterback. Dylan Lonergan's gone. Grayson James is gone. And they don't have anybody with any experience, so Deuce Knight doesn't really hit that. He played one game last year, but he actually played the full game, and he torched, I forget what FCS school it was, but I think he had like 6 total touchdowns. So the buzz is all about whether Deuce Knight would be coming to Boston College. And, it's just buzz for now. We don't know if it's true or not. But the first domino, if this is going to happen, went through on Monday. And that was that quarterback Byrum Brown of USF entered the transfer portal. Why is this significant? How does this impact BC? Well, I'm going to tell you right now. Byrum Brown combined for like 40-something touchdowns this year. It was some crazy number. And he was one of the most prolific quarterbacks in the nation for USF. And his head coach at USF is Alex Golish, who is now the head coach at Auburn. So when Alex Golish got the job at Auburn, the buzz was that he was going to take Byrum Brown with him. If Byrum Brown goes to Auburn, there's a very good chance that Deuce Knight will enter the portal. We don't know exactly. Deuce might want to just wait another year on the bench. But he also may look around and say, hey, there's school there that could use a starting quarterback. And I committed here to play for Hugh Freeze. He's gone. Why don't I go back into the portal and see if I can find a better opportunity? If that's the case, that's where Boston College plays in. Because what does Boston College have? They have an open job. Now, Deuce is interesting for, I've been thinking more and more about this. It's interesting for a big reason. Obviously he came out of high school, a 5-star recruit. He had a ton of interest from a lot of big schools. But there's so many big names that have established quarterbacks that those big schools that need quarterbacks might just vulture themselves out of getting, the Dylan Raiolas, the Byrum Browns, the, all these quarterbacks that are really good, Rocco Becht, that it'll get down to the point where, BC could get a Deuce Knight. It's not out of the realm of possibilities that could happen. So this is just one domino. That domino may kind of veer off to the side and this never happens. Maybe Deuce decides he wants to play there. But this is a name that you're going to want to watch for because, if he enters the portal, your bat signal and your hackles should be going up, being like, okay, there's something going on here. I say this, and I've said this a couple times, because the connection isn't, it's great when they have a connection. I'm sure Byrum Brown and Golish have a very good connection. Go and find Deuce Knight on Twitter. Go find his Twitter account. It is literally a Kenyatta Watson love fest. He just tweeted out yesterday or 2 days ago Kenyatta Watson's introduction video that they just made at BC. There's tons of retweets when he went to BC of him and Deuce. The connection seems real. And, I think this is the kind of thing that if I was Kenyatta Watson and I want to set make my stamp on this roster immediately, this is the kind of move that would make a lot of sense. You have a relationship with him. You know what he can and can't do. You hope that he's going to be a good fit in what Bill O'Brien does, and you bring him in here. So I think this is now we're now into DEFCON 2. DEFCON 2 is, does Deuce enter the portal? There's going to be 3 phases to this. The first was, will Byrum Brown enter the portal? That's a check mark. The second phase is, does Deuce Knight enter the portal? Because again, I'm saying this, he's not a slam dunk that he's going to do that. We don't know this. I'm not in Deuce's head. You're not. It's a lot of assumptions. So that's the next piece. And then if he enters the portal, the third piece is, can BC land him? Because there'll be other schools that'll look at him too. Can Boston College make that step to make that happen? Because I think we talked about Mason McKenzie yesterday. That was the kid from Saginaw Valley. Yeah, that's nice, but which quarterback is going to bring the buzz? It's not even close. Deuce Knight's going to bring a lot of buzz. I mean, I could tell you episodes I do talking about Deuce Knight do pretty darn well. So I think there'll be a lot of interest there. Now, in a moment, let's switch it up from football for a moment, and let's talk about basketball, because basketball played on Monday night after a week or 12 days off, and they looked as bad as they can be to start, but hey, credit to them. They turned it around, and I'll explain what I mean by that in just a moment. NFL's moves, Sundays move fast, one big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place live bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Now, my son and I were watching the Patriots and Ravens game last night, and Zay Flowers was going off. I put live a anytime touchdown after the first couple catches he had, and boom, he looked incredible. And so my son wanted me to mention Zay Flowers on the show. Just putting that out there right now. But also, bummer at the end of the game for poor. But spreads and monies adjust instantly throughout the FanDuel app, with player props updating as guys heat up. You can bet next touchdown score, drive results, totals, and more. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long with FanDuel. The games moves fast, and so can you. Locked on Boston College, AJ Black here, wrapping things up. We're finishing up our show talking about basketball. We talked about football to kind of kick this all off, but basketball started off today. Their second, basically, like BC basically had their, halftime break. Their middle of the season break, and now they're back. They've got a couple more out of conference games. They're playing Lemoyne, but they had to play FDU, a team they beat by 10 points last year. And I looked at the spread. It was 16.5. And I said, there's absolutely no way Boston College is going to cover that, because if you've watched an Earl Grant team, any Earl Grant team, we've watched all Earl Grant teams. He cannot put away teams. It's just not the way he does things. But I was also more worried about the inevitable buy game issues that have happened with BC. And boy, oh boy, did this feel like a horror show to start off, as Boston College, they struggled shooting to start this game. You had 8 points right off the bat in those first couple of minutes by Luka Taves, but everybody else was struggling. They were, more than halfway through that first half, shooting 25% from the field. which was not helping was ODU, sorry, not ODU, FDU was shooting 40% and 40% from 3-point range too. They shot 23-pointer attempts, hitting 8 of them. And BC was down by 11 points going into halftime. Donald Hand was having a Donald Hand game where, credit to him, he was getting to the line, which saved BC's butt big time because no one was hitting anything. But he wasn't shooting well at all either. So BC goes down at half. They're losing. I had the score right in front of me and I just lost it. 33-25. And, I thought to myself, this is going to happen again. Oh my gosh, it's happening. But the second half was a completely different story for BC. And this is where at least you can glean some positivity for them. They shot 63% from the field. Fred Payne had 11 points in the second half. Luka Taves had 13, and he was just feeling it. And they shot 47% from 3-point range to put it away. Again, this game did not do anything to help me feel like BC changed anything. I saw a tweet that Earl Grant said before the game that he tweaked the offense. Well, that seemed new to me, that first half. But hey, the second half, they scored 47 points. So that's a positive, right? Now, you play Lemoyne next, and then you get into the ACC portions of your schedule. I don't know how many more wins BC has left at them, because FDU brought you to the edge, and they were a team that only had beaten 3 Division III schools. That's all they had won, and you had to really battle to beat them. I gotta say, great game for Luka Taves. Again, Fred Payne looked really good, and you didn't see a whole lot from anyone else. Caleb Steger, sorry. Caleb Steger had 3 3-pointers off the bench. But you had, in the second half, 1 point from Donald Hand, 4 points from Jaden Hastings, 0 from Aiden Shaw. And when you play like this against better teams, you can't. The thing with BC, right, is, and this is the disheartening part. When you win by 11, you're like, oh, you won, great. This is BC. You don't win all that much. The disheartening part about this is it just does not seem BC can play a full game ever. It feels like everything is like, one half they play like garbage, the second half they play better. This game, I said the shooting was bad in the first half, but the defense was bad too. The rotations were slow. They had trouble getting through screens. It was just a mess. Well, they ratcheted up the pressure in the second half, and boom, they caused FDU to have all sorts of problems on the court, and they looked so much better. But I don't understand why especially against FDU, who is 10 from the bottom of net. I think they're real down there. It should not take you a half of college basketball to figure out an adjustment against FDU if you're an ACC basketball team. But that's what Earl Grant does, and this is what happens. Also, the roster continues to, the rotations continue to shrink. Jason Esamotos doesn't seem to do much. Marko Radunovic isn't doing much. It just, enjoy the win while you have it, but it just feels like to me that these are not going to be coming very much. And as I've said before, not to be a Debbie Downer, but I would be realistic here. There's a very decent chance that BC goes 0 for the ACC. I'm only going to say that the chances continue to slip because Notre Dame is terrible too. You play them twice. And there's teams that aren't great either. Syracuse, you could catch napping. Georgia Tech isn't all that great. BC's playing bad, but Earl Grant has found ways to win those games. That's my thoughts on that. Watching these basketball games is rough. It's rough. Now, on tomorrow's show, we'll talk more. Hopefully, keep your fingers crossed that we find something out about this defensive coordinator. I've been digging and digging and digging and digging, and I'm finding nothing. I'm finding empty treasure chests everywhere. Hopefully, we get some info. Follow me on Twitter at AJBlack247. Check me out on Facebook and Instagram, on TikTok. I'm everywhere. And again, become part of the All Access. There's the basic tier. There's the All Access tier. I continue to do new episodes. I put stuff on Discord. I put stuff up on Subtext. If you want a good deal, it's up right now. You can sign up and get a couple free months out of it. So check that out. And we'll see you all again tomorrow for another episode of Locked On Boston College, your team every day.